Hey, it's V, and I am back with another book. And this time it is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. And I have so many thoughts that we will get into later. But there's so many thoughts that I have. Now, to start this off, I'm going to explain how I found this book, how I came across it. I saw a ad for Book of the Month, which, as the name suggests, it is a subscription service for a book each month. It's really in the name. I saw an ad for it, and it was specifically this book that was being advertised to me. With, I don't remember like the caption of the ad, but it was about like the house comes with a demon, and I was like, okay, that's piquing my interest. So I picked it. Now, with Book of the Month, it's not you sign up for a subscription and they send you a random book every month, but instead each month they have a selection of books to pick out, and they're at a discount price. They're like $17 for hardback books, which not all hardcover copies of books. Now, before we get further into the video and further into this book, there's a couple things that I should, preface this with. To start off with, this is not sponsored. I picked this book out on my own free will, paid for the subscription of my own free will with my own money. It is a genuinely like interesting subscription service to me, and so I looked into it. Secondly, my opinion of the book does not reflect the subscription service Book of the Month as a company. Again, I just want to put that out there. I don't want someone thinking, oh, well, it's their fault, they're promoting bad books. No, that's not the case. I happened to pick a book that I did not like, and that was on me. So, clearing that up. Also, some trigger warnings going on, like, into this book for those who, may be sensitive to these topics. I'll be showing a list of the trigger warnings while reading them aloud, because as I'm speaking, I might forget some and remember some in post. So, trigger warnings for drug use, strong language, graphic content, horror, and a lot of talk and depictions of abuse, physically and mentally. Editing B here. This is more so a trigger warning for the book and not for the video itself. I kind of gloss over a lot of things. I kind of go off the rails in how I talk about this book and off script. I originally thought I was going to be reading more excerpts than I did, and yeah. So this is, again, just more of a trigger warning for the book itself if you choose to read it. These things kind of get glossed over. Again, there's probably more that I'm missing off the top of my head. I will add in post. We'll see a full list on screen. And lastly, and most importantly, this is me verbally saying that my video is not meant for young audiences. There is a age warning at the beginning of the video. However, some people are, I understand that some people sit and listen to videos and don't actually watch them. So, verbally saying that if you are a young child, this content is not for you. This is a book ultimately written by an adult for adults. This is adult content. So, viewer digression is advised for this one. Now, with all of that said and done and out of the way, let's get into this book. So, Book of the Month does this thing when it comes to describing their books where they do a quick take. So, for example, the Play Nice quick take for on the Book of the Month website states, inheriting a house from your late mom is emotionally complicated, especially when the house comes with a bonus demon. And then there's some good to know traits about the book. Wow, you really can't see this, but like it's feminist, supernatural, salacious, and haunted house. And then there's also a additional read this if you like section. So read this if you like a classic haunted house novel with a clever modern flavor. It's darkly funny and undeniably horrifying with just the right amount of snark. Family demons, both the shared trauma kind and the lives in your attic with sharp teeth and a tail kind. Chaotic hot mess protagonist fumbling their way through adulthood. Oh, they also have content warning on here as well. However, the only content warning that they provided is self-harm. There are scenes of depictions of self-harm. But the synopsis reads, Cleo Louise Barnes leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer, but beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not-so-glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted. Possessed. After Cleo's parents' messy divorce, her mother Alex moved Cleo and her sisters into a house occupied by a demon. Or so Alex claimed. That's not what Cleo's sisters remember, or what the court determined when they stripped Alex of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent. She even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house passes to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for house flipping content. Only as the home makeover process begins, Cleo discovers there might be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface and Cleo finally reads her mother's book, the presence in the house becomes more real and more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. Now, all of this on paper sounds really interesting. It interested me. Again, I chose this book because it sounded interesting to me on paper, which, spoiler, made this all the more disappointing for me as a read. What should have been my first red flag of this book is when I opened it up, and the first page here, again, you can't really see that well. I'm recording on an iPhone, 13. Is opening the book, and the first thing that I see being, for the crazy girls, this one's for us. Awesome. 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 When I first opened the book and I saw that, biggest eye roll ever, really. Biggest eye roll ever. Now, the second red flag, which was ultimately my first red flag, because I chose not to think too deeply about for the crazy girls, was how the first 2 pages were written. I hated it immediately. The first 2 pages. I know it's not fair. I know it's not fair to judge a whole book based off of the first 2 pages. However, I feel like these 2 pages are very telling for how the rest of the book ends up being written and going. For most novels, I try not to judge it too terribly hard until I'm a couple chapters in. If I'm halfway into the book already and I'm still feeling negatively, then the book wasn't good in my eyes. But I fear that it started bad and it kept getting worse. The negative feelings and thoughts that I had in the beginning just continued throughout all of it. And I'm gonna bless you. I'm going to bless you with the horrors of reading these first 2 pages to you. We're coming up on midnight. The room is loud, everyone champagne drunk. ignorant of volume, and wow, the air in here is intense. All hot breath and designer perfume. Everyone wants to smell good because this is the hour it happens, when it's determined who goes home alone, and judging by the pungency, a lot of people in here don't want to end up in an empty bed tonight. They want to attract. They want to be chosen. So they sneak off to the bathroom to fix their hair, stare at their smudged reflections, primp powder perfume spritzing excessively with reckless abandon. I inhale. It's hope is what it is. It's sweet, but also pretty desperate, pretty boring. I turn to the guy next to me. He's deliberately underdressed in a white t-shirt and jeans. He's drinking a beer. I thought this party was too chic for beer. Where did you get that? I ask him. The bar, he says in a tone I don't care for. I stick my tongue out at him, and he cracks a smile. Cleo Louise Barnes, I say, holding out my hand. I want to mention here, before I forget to, that Cleo is spelled C-L-I-O instead of C-L-E-O. I mean, maybe it's Clio. There's no other name that this could be than Cleo. Like, there's no other name than Cleo that this could be, like, pronounced in. Unless there is and I'm stupid, but, like, Cleo makes the most sense. Just, what a way to spell it. C-L-I-O? Okay. He stares at my hand for a moment before shaking it. Ethan. What do you do, Ethan? Really? What? Small talk? We can exchange childhood traumas if you like, I say, helping myself to a sip of his beer. He allows it to happen, and I decide I'm into him. He reeks of cologne, so I know I can leave with him tonight if I want to. We've already met several times at brand parties just like this one, he says. I was waiting for you to remember. I do remember, but the easiest way to tell who a man really is to injure his ego and see how he reacts. I'm bad with names and faces, I say. And I meet a lot of people. I'm sorry. Please don't take it personally. He rubs his jaw, considering. You really don't remember? Do you forgive me? I give him puppy eyes, bat my lashes. Which, I want to point out here that with this quote here, I give him puppy eyes, comma, bat my lashes. It is very awkward to read that. It is very awkward to speak that versus adding an and there instead of the comma. To say, I give him puppy eyes and bat my lashes versus I give him puppy eyes, bat my lashes. This feels like two sentence fragments that are never properly connected. This happens several times. Like, if I had $1 for every time that this happens in the book, I'd be filthy rich. Like, it's so awkward. I will get further into that later, though, before I go on a tangent. He sighs, then lifts his chin and points to a thin scar, about 3 inches long. Car accident when I was 5. Blood everywhere. Mom was driving. She was in a coma for a week. Is she okay? Yeah, she's got scars too, but that's it. I sip my champagne. I like it better than the beer. I wish I had simpler taste, but I don't. Lucky to live with scars. Better to live without, he says. What about you, Cleo Louise Barnes? Childhood trauma? I debate making something up, but I'm intoxicated. From the alcohol, yeah, but also from the balmy heat, the formidable amalgam of smells, the city outside alive with the magnificent Saturday night energy. So I tell him something true. I grew up in a haunted house. Okay, I have to take this off. It was fun while it lasted. When I first read these 2 pages, there was just something about it that just instantly kind of like turned me off to the writing style. Like, what? What? There's quotes like, I wish I had simpler taste. And he's the CEO of a cool, successful watch company. It really doesn't make things better. Like, again, so many thoughts I had about this book very early on, but having the context of having finished this book and having wrote a whole script to like keep my thoughts like together, it just, lines like those felt very, I'm trying to be edgy and cool, and I'm so high class. And like also Cleo and her entire family is like filthy rich. I don't know what her father does. It's never mentioned, but it's heavily implied that she has money. And they try to humble her throughout the book by saying how she thrifts all of her designer, and that like she alters clothing because, you know, she's a stylist. And so like they try to make her humble in that way, but it's still very like tone deaf. Like, I'm wearing all this Prada, but it's all secondhand. The word I was looking for, or term, was performative. That's cool. That's so cool that like you thrifted your Prada. However, not everything that you wear is thrifted, and that's okay. That's okay. It's just the way that you talk about it is strange, in my opinion. Again, it just feels like they're trying to make Cleo have some down to earth qualities and humbleness about her when she really doesn't. She Cleo as a character reeks of it, so much entitlement, so much I use my daddy's money. My daddy pays for everything, and I don't have to lift a finger for anything that I do or get. And I get what I want because I'm pretty, and my daddy does everything for me. Like that's her. That is her. Let's get my thoughts backtracked to the book and on topic. So it's within the very first pages of the book that we learned that Cleo's mother died. And her reaction is so odd. First, she is actively ignoring that her phone is ringing and that it is her sister's calling, that she has a lot of missed calls from her older sister, Lita, and also one from her, she's the middle sister, Daphne's the middle sister, but she's older than Cleo, but not the oldest of the three. And a call from her. She sees that Lita is calling her once again and declines the phone call to call Daphne to ask what's happening. And she calls Daphne to see what's happening, and Daphne is like, oh, she's just calling about our mom. But they don't call her mom. Only Cleo refers to her as mom. They all call her by Alex or Alexandra, which is first name basis. Daphne says that she is gone. And Cleo... Daphne says that their mother is gone and that she called the paramedics while she's having a heart attack, but she was gone when they got there. And Cleo is like, gone as in what? What do you mean by she's gone? And like, she's intoxicated at this point. But like, how intoxicated? Off of champagne? How many flutes of champagne did you have, girly? But the context clues. She had a heart attack. She called the paramedics. She was gone before they arrived. I feel like that's very, like, plain and simple, straight to the point, in your face. She is dead. She does eventually pick up Lita's phone call after Daphne has already explained everything to her. And from this conversation, we get a very lovely quote. She was our biological mother, Lita says through what sounds like a clenched jaw. Someday Lita will discover Xanax and her quality of life will improve dramatically. The flippant use and talk of drugs and alcohol is also rampant in this novel. But this is also followed by another very lovely scene that just it sets the stage for what's to come. I hang up and immediately open the Uber app, request a car. Again, this is the same comma instead of using and. So instead of saying open the Uber app and request a car, it is I open the Uber app, comma, request a car. Again, I find this to be awkward and annoying, and again, it happens so many times throughout this book. What service? Mitt is only 2 minutes away, I tell Ethan. Silver Toyota Corolla. Plate ends with X3. Is everything okay? He asks me. I drop my phone back into my clutch and pitch it shut. My mom died. Seconds pass. A siren sounds somewhere in the distance. Someone else's misfortune, temporarily louder than mine. Wait, for real? He asks. I nod. For real. I'm so sorry for my cat. She will be probably doing this throughout the entire time. It is Opal's world, and I just live in it. I nod. For real? Holy shit, I'm so sorry. Mitt pulls up in his Toyota. I open the door, look back at Ethan, who stands stiff on the sidewalk, his eyes watery and wide, as if he were the one who had just gotten the gloomy news. You want to come home with me or not? I ask before sliding into the back seat. He climbs in beside me, undeterred by my tragedy, or perhaps motivated by it. If he wants to be my knight in shiny armor, so be it. I snuggle into him, steal his warmth. If there was an afterlife, if any of the wild things my mother believed are true, she's somewhere watching me, proud. I'd rather you girls open up your legs before you ever open your hearts, she once said, half a bottle deep. I was too young to understand then. So many things. Actually, I tell Ethan, I changed my mind. Get out. Like, not only is that such a way to start your book, but also to end your first chapter. But also, again, the writing of using a comma instead of an and. I'm sorry. I'm so bothered by it. I snuggle into him, steal his warmth. I snuggle into him and steal his warmth versus I snuggle into him stealing his warmth. Like, if you didn't want to use and, ing works. Adding ing to steal also works. It sounds less awkward to use and or to use stealing as in like an active, like an action in motion. You're actively stealing his warmth versus just a comma. It feels lazy, but it also is, again, so awkward to read throughout this whole book. If I had $1 every time, again, I'd be filthy rich. We find out pretty early on that Cleo is a whole 25 years old and is the most immature femc I have read in a hot while. Like, I will look over immaturity in characters when the characters are written to be in high school. They are high school aged people or children because like that's excusable. However, Cleo is an established adult. She's been living on her own ever since she turned 18. She has gone through college. She has her own job, like big girl job type thing. Like, she's a fashion designer and a stylist who does influencer stuff on the side. Like, she is a grown woman. She is way too old to be acting the way that she does this, like, whole book. Like, the way that she acts is comparable to how a 16, 17-year-old would act who thinks that they're grown when they're not. But Cleo is 25. 25. When I say that her father does everything for her in this book, I mean literally does it for her. Not, oh, she like gets help. He like walks her through it. He teaches her how to do something. He does it for her. We see this like almost immediately in chapter 2 when she notes her laundry is piling up and her bed's a mess, and that, oh, she has to go over to her father's to meet with the family, and she doesn't want to take bus transport. So she calls her father, plays up her sadness to get her dad to pick her up so she doesn't have to take public transport, because New Jersey transit is such a tragedy. She is 25. I understand maybe not like wanting to do public transport, but like her father comes, picks her up, coddles her, and cleans out her fridge, does the chores for her, and it's like, you're grown. You're too grown for this. Like, I'm 21. My mom has not cleaned my room for me since I was 8. Maybe, like, as a child, she would help me pick up, and if I ask her for help, like, hey, can you help me keep track and make sure that I actually cleaned my room, or something like that, she would. But like, she's not doing it for me. She hasn't done it for me in forever. Again, I'm 21. You should be able to pick up your own room by yourself by the time you're like 10. But whatever. 25-year-old big grown adult woman needs her father to do it. Wow. Chapter 2 also like introduces us to just how questionable the writing and the writing style is for this book, at least again in my opinion. There are strange quotes like, what can I say? Cooking isn't a priority for me. And before you lecture, remember feminism. What? And there's also a quote that goes along the lines of, we all love each other, but Daphne and Leta don't always get along. I'm the family's social lubricant, the special sauce. Like, this is so wordy in a way that's unnecessary. What is this adding? What is this contributing? This is just, it reads weird. I cringed reading that. And there's more. Like, on page 11, we get this segment that's like, once my makeup is done, I climb back into bed, unplug my phone, clip on my selfie light, and take a photo of myself in my bra and necklace. My shiny new charm on display. It's good enough to post to the grid. I tag Veronica, tag Shine Ink. Again, use and, please. Caption it with a snake emoji, a diamond emoji, some stars. That I tagged Veronica bit, and the adding the emojis could have been one sentence as a list using commas and the addition of and. I feel so passionately about this. She's either allergic to using the word and, or she uses and too much instead of using lists. Again, this is how, like, far into the book, which is not very far, that, like, I started already having issues with it. I stare at the picture. It's obvious to me that my smile is fake, but it won't be obvious to anyone else. Another lesson from my mother, when she taught by an unfortunate example, by showing us what not to do, by showing us how important it is to be in complete control of your emotions. It's too dangerous the other way around. This is never... Oh. I guess Opal's face is just gonna be like, can I? Hi, sweetheart. Like, it's never actually shown throughout the book how her mother taught this example, because really the only scenes and even memories we get of Alex is of her drunk and screaming about the demon that possesses the house. So, but there's like this other section that's like, I kneel before my open suitcase, contemplating its contents. Working in fashion has ruined my ability to be spontaneous, to be nimble even under these circumstances. What I wear matters. How I'm perceived matters. Sometimes I think it's all that matters. Sometimes I know it is. Harrison gets very wordy. She gets very wordy in this while managing to say nothing at all. Nothing that contributes, at least. And I probably am sounding the same way at this point. I just... Also, like, this... There's so many examples. There's so many examples. Another one. Because just... To really drive the point home. There's still glitter on my hands. Period. There will always be glitter on my hands. Period. Glitter is permanent. Period. It just... Are you trying to hit a word count? This just sounds like something that I would do in high school when I'm trying to hit a word count, but I have completely maxed out what I had to say about the topic that the essay was on. Like, this is what it feels like. Also, throughout this book, you find that Cleo always has something to say about her sisters. She goes back and forth talking about how much she loves them and how pretty they are and she adores them, to not caring about their personal items, and also just kind of being, like, mean and nasty and, like, insulting towards them. Like, okay, for example, Cleo wonders why her father was so careful driving around Daphne's car in the parking lot, like, not the parking lot, their driveway, when her car was already full of dents, and was like, well, what's another dent anyways? She has the money to afford a fancy new car, but she's not materialistic like me and Lita. So what's another dent? She can just get a new car. Like, that's not the point. What if she likes that car? What if she wants to keep up with that car? Just because someone has the means to afford a nicer version of something that they already have doesn't mean that they want to get it if they don't need it. Like, maybe to Daphne, there was no point of getting a new car when her car works perfectly fine as is, besides some cosmetic damage. Maybe she didn't feel the need to get a new car. Again, for something as simple as cosmetic damage. Obviously, if her car was literally falling apart as she drove, and she had the means to get a new car and chose not to, that's a little bit different and that's a little bit strange. Because if you need something new, because, again, you need it and it's broken and it can be dangerous to continue to use the broken one, then yeah, that is an issue, that is a problem, especially if there's means to replace it. This doesn't sound like that. And then there's also, like, this part where she speaks to their stepmom, Amy, and she's, like, warning her that she made the girls sangria and that they may be tipsy. And Cleo's response to this was, like, good. They're more fun that way. Like, do you like your sisters? Or do you not? Both are valid feelings to have. Like, you don't owe family anything just because they're related, especially if, you know, they treat you one way or another. But, like, do you love them? Do you hate them? What is happening? This doesn't feel like regular, like, sibling rivalry. So, after her arrival, she finds out that there is, in fact, a funeral that no one told her about until just now. And they're all making the decision for her that no one is going. Now, the father and the stepmother, Amy, are not welcomed. Alexandra's sister, Helen, makes that very clear that they're not welcomed. However, the daughters are welcomed, Lita, Daphne, and Cleo. But, again, they all choose for Cleo that none of them are going. And Cleo is like, but I want to go, so whatever. And the other two are like, we don't want you around all of Mom's weird associates. The associates in question are, like, pagan. I don't really consider them all that weird. And this brings up another thing, is that this entire novel is basically just Leta and Daphne trying to discourage Cleo from doing anything and trying to keep her away from, like, their mother's memory, essentially. Like, reading her book, taking over the house to renovate it. They're all like, well, because we're traumatized, that means that you're traumatized by association, because we all lived under the same household. However, Cleo has, like, no memories of half the things that traumatized Daphne and Leta. Again, their trauma is valid, but her sisters at the same time complain that she doesn't do anything for herself. And when she does decide to do something for herself, by herself, her sisters then try to tell her that she's not allowed to do that. And then they complain that, like, she makes these bad decisions. And it's like, well, when you try to make decisions for someone, a lot of times in response to that is that they make their own decision, which happens to be the poor one. But again, a lot of their discouragement that they give Cleo when it comes to going to the funeral, like I said, or going and renovating the house, there's never, like, any reason, real reason given, real valid reason anyways. Like, the reasons are always, you don't remember it like we do. We're trying to protect you from the memories. It's a safety issue. And it's like, a safety issue from what? Minus the demon house. But it's a safety issue going to a funeral that is directed by pagans who literally at the funeral, they read tarot. They did a remembrance circle where they sat in a circle and they held hands and they recalled memories that they had with Alexandra. Like, wow, that's such a safety concern. Wow, they're so weird remembering someone in life than talking about the way that she died. Wow. Such safety issue. They're so weird. Why would they do that? Why would they celebrate someone's life? Though there is one point when she's, like, telling them that she is going to go to the funeral regardless of what they say. She's like, I'm a big girl now. I can make my own decisions. And her sisters do clock her with valid reasons of, like, them being like, you think you're a big girl? Dad does all of this for you, like paying taxes, setting up her internet, mounting a TV to the wall, how he still pays for her phone. Like, wow, you're such an adult at your grown age. Like, here's a part of how it goes down. It's not about respect, Cleo. It's about safety, Leta says. You don't remember what it's like. That's their trump card. I was too young to remember what they remember. Too young to comprehend the damage being inflicted. The chaos of Mom fully losing her mind after Dad had enough of her drama and filed for divorce. I'm sorry, but I'm with Leeds here, Daphne says. I'm sorry, but I really don't care, I say, standing. I don't need your permission. They exchange a look of frustration and maybe something else. Heartbreak. I blow them kisses, pick up the sangria pitcher, turn on my heel, and walk out of the room, escaping up the stairs where I can be alone. Like, it just feels like a response that a teenager would have, where they thought that it was, like, such a good one. Like, they really got them by saying, I don't care. I actually don't care. Also, immediately after her very, in my opinion, childish response, which, again, she's valid in wanting to go, and saying that she doesn't care is fine. Like, it's just the way that it reads, though. It reads like a teenager and not like an adult being like, well, I don't care that you don't want to go, but I want to go. But immediately, immediately we are hit with a discrepancy. So she goes up to her bedroom, and this is what she describes. My bedroom is still very much my bedroom, even though I moved out a decade ago, the week after I graduated high school, wasting no time. Did I read that right? A decade? A decade? Cleo is 25. A decade is 10 years. The math does not math here when it comes to saying a decade and being 25. That would mean that she graduated at the ripe age of 15. And based off of her actions throughout this entire book, I do not believe Cleo to be intelligent enough or like capable enough of graduating during her freshman or sophomore year of high school. Like, I really don't. But also, it's followed up by saying that she was 18 when she graduated. Again, that puts a discrepancy of using the term decade. She was 18 when she graduated, but it's been a decade since it was her room. That would make her 28, would it not? However, she is 25, and so saying a decade ago would put her at 15. I don't know if this is like supposed to be a exaggerated use of time, like an exaggeration, but a lot of times people are like, oh, it's almost a decade. Like, it's been almost a decade since this was my room. But, you know, I can see it potentially being a childish exaggeration or like an immature exaggeration, as sometimes when she describes things, she goes, or like or whatever. I don't like Cleo. but, and again, in my humble opinion, it's been a decade, and with the age discrepancy that brings, it just reads off as being stupid. And I don't necessarily think this may be the author's fault. I do think that there may be fault with the editor who didn't pick up on this as well, of literally like 4 or 5 pages earlier in writing saying that Cleo is 25. Someone did not think. In her room, she has like some inner monologue where she thinks about the scar that her mother gave her by supposedly burning her with a cigarette, about the book that her mom had wrote about the demon possession in the house, that her father had promised her, had made her promise never to read. And also following through with the curiosity that she has of wanting to read the contents of the book. The book in question is titled Demon of Edgewood Drive, The True Story of a Suburban Haunting. And it is written from the mother's perspective. And it's essentially about how she ended up in the house and the happenings with the demon, and how she tried to proceed with existing with the demon, and like the exorcist, or the exorcism that they tried to perform on said demon. And like when Cleo does eventually read this book, those pages and those pieces of plot are ultimately more interesting than this whole book. I think I would have rather have read The Demon of Edgewood Drive, a modern suburban haunting, than Play Nice.
Hi, post editing. I don't actually touch too terribly much on the novel instead of the novel due to time's sake. Like, this was already a 2-hour long video in the process, so I didn't really get too much into it. So if that is something that you are interested in, let me know, and maybe I'll like do a video touched on that. That is all.
Leading up to the funeral, it's just a bunch of conversations of the sisters still trying to talk Cleo out of going. And it's very disrespectful of Cleo's wishes. Like, Cleo, at least, again, I have so many problems with Cleo, but at the end of the day, Cleo still at least accepts the fact that Daphne and Lita don't want to go to the funeral, and therefore doesn't try to change their mind. She's just like, they don't want to go, then they don't want to go. However, I want to go. And those two are constantly trying to change her mind. They cannot respect the decision that she has made of wanting to go to the funeral. So, anyways, she does go to the funeral, and part of the reason why the father ends up letting her go is because she said that she'll bring Tommy, Lita's husband, with her as a chaperone so that she's not alone in a dangerous situation. And again, the funeral is literally just her catching up with her Aunt Helen and being informed that she came to inherit the house, that she never actually sold that house. Tommy gets his fortune read. The other people there, again, they're doing a circle of remembrance. There is someone there named Roy who is their mother's boyfriend, and he is a demonologist. Like, his job specialization is a demonologist, and he gives them the key to the house, or gives Cleo the key to the house. He gives her a satchel saying that it's from their mother and that she wanted them to have it. And in the satchel is the key, a strange silver coin, a vial of clear liquid that Cleo makes a comment on, hoping it's just holy water, and one of her mother's ring. The contents of the satchel is never brought up again. Ever. It's another piece of useless information that this book has. During the circle of remembrance, there's this really awkward scene that happens where they're all taking turns saying fond memories of Alexandra, and the entire time Cleo is sitting there thinking to herself of a memory. And I'm going to read this, actually. A woman wearing a birdcage fastener like a courthouse bride shares a memory of Mom bringing over lemon bars on a random Tuesday. The mother I remember was a terrible baker. One year, she botched Daphne's out-of-a-box birthday cake so badly we ended up going to McDonald's for apple pies and McFlurries instead. On the drive home, sugar high, I declared my love for McDonald's in song and dance, kicking the back of the passenger seat. Lita complained. Daphne asked me to sit still, so I leaned over and licked her. She screamed. Mom slammed on the brakes after nearly running a red light. I shouldn't have taken you there, she said, pounding a fist on the steering wheel. You're going to be chubby. Do you know how hard it is to be a chubby girl in school? Do you want that for yourselves? To get bullied? You know what? Go ask your dad how he feels about chubby girls. The light turned green, but she didn't go. She wasn't paying attention. She was too busy yelling at us. The driver in the car behind us laid on their horn, and so Mom hit the gas. The tires squealed. Thinking back on it now, I suspect she was drunk. Haven't had a McFlurry since. I become aware that the room is quiet and that there are eyes on me. I like to be looked at, but not like this, like I'm Godzilla rising out of the sea. It takes me a minute to realize that I just made it my turn to share a memory, that I just declared that McDonald's story aloud. And that has not gone over particularly well. The cup in my hand is empty, the whiskey gone, but I lifted it away anyway. To my mom, I say, smiling sunnily, attempting to recover the crowd. And the tough lessons delivered imperfectly, and her gray hair. Okay, that's it for me. Who's next? After the funeral, to her sister's dismay, she informs them that they inherited the house and that she is going to renovate it. And her heart is more into the content creation that she talks about doing for the house and never really ends up doing. They make it seem like her being a social media influencer has more effect on the story than it actually does. It's kind of just a side thing, and you never see anything about her being a stylist until the very end. Again, just pointless facts, I guess. I don't know. But her sisters disapprove. Shocker, she doesn't care. Her first day there, when she's checking out the house, though, a couple of different things happen that she finds to be strange and maybe paranormal-ish. The first being that the fans move on their own without her turning it on. She also notices that there are footsteps leading up to her old room. They're like muddy, dried into the floor footsteps, not like, oh, fresh footprints. She assumes that these footsteps are from the paramedics who came and answered her call. This leads her to believe that her mother must have died in her old room. When she goes in there into the old room, she also finds an annotated copy of her mother's book. However, it's only half of the book. The first half is there, the second half is missing completely. Her visit to the house is cut short though when she sees a mouse, and she runs out of the house screaming, just freaking out. I do believe that the reason why she freaked out as hard as she did when it came to the mouse is not because the mouse itself was a truly horrifying experience, but more of a final straw thing of, oh, there's a creepy presence that she's feeling. Oh, the fan's moving and she never turned it on. But like a fake out. It was a fake out, essentially. And the fake out was the final straw to freak her out, to just book it. The whole scene, though, is meant to be kind of scary. This is a horror novel. And let me read it. The ceiling fan hangs low, big blades like the propellers of a jet. I stare up at it, and I watch as it slowly starts to spin. I swallow. Something hot and dense squeezes down my throat, landing heavily in my gut. Fear? Dread? The feeling has yet to crystallize, to reach its final form. The blades travel at a lazy cadence. Did I accidentally hit a switch? Is it just the circulation of air in the house stirring the fan? There's a breeze coming in from somewhere. It's here, stroking the back of my neck. I turn around and walk over to the wood post, peek down at into the foyer. I left the front door open. I'm tempted to shimmy through the post and jump down onto the landing for old time's sake, but I don't have rubber kid knees anymore. I have prematurely achy formal dancer knees, so I go around down the stairs and close the door. I listen to make sure I hear it latch, then turn to lean back against it, rest my head, take a moment to think. The carpet needs to be replaced with hardwood or quality vinyl. The brick replaced with tile. The ceiling beams can stay, but the paneling can't. I could keep it mid-century, incorporate some funky retro accent pieces, go for a neutral color palette, use mirrors to make it seem bigger, brighter. I head downstairs to visit my old bedroom and check out the state of the lower level. It's dark. I feel around for the wall for the light switch. The fixture on the ceiling above me flickers on, the bulb humming. Every door down here is shut. The framed artwork knocked off the walls, and there are muddy footprints on the carpet. They lead into my room. I lean down and run my hands over the footprints. The mud is dried, crusty. They appear to have been left by bulky man boots. Could belong to Roy or the paramedics or the coroner or whatever. No one offered up any details about Mom's death, and I really don't care to know. She had a massive heart attack. She called 911. She died before they got here. Any specifics beyond that aren't for me. They're for the kind of morbid weirdos who look at photos of dead celebrities on TMZ or spend their lives on true crime forums obsessing over blood spatter. I'm curious, but not curious like that. Dead is dead. One thing I do know now, whether I want to know it or not, is that she clearly died in my room. I follow the footprints there and open the door. Someone left the light on. There's my twin bed in the corner with my pink floral sheets. Unmade. The bed is unmade. Did she die in my bed? I ask aloud to no one. It would make sense why Lita and Daphne and Helen would choose to omit that particular detail. A squeaking interrupts my train of thought. I pivot, chasing the sound. I listen, but it's gone. Now I face my double dresser, my closet, the dreaded closet. My hot pink beanbag chair is opposite the closet, under a lamp that looks like a giant tulip. And there are books and magazines piled up beside it. Pictures I cut out of those magazines are tacked onto the walls, along with some drawings I made in school and photos from disposable cameras. She left it the same, and it's a bug in amber, a time capsule. The lone window is in a weird spot between the bed and the beanbag chair, too high on the wall inside and too low in the ground outside to let decent light. It's covered by a white lace curtain that Mom made from her wedding dress. There's a matching one in Lita and Daphne's room upstairs. I approach the bed, study the impression in the covers, the curve of my sheets, the shape made by her, the shape that she left in her absence. If I believed in ghosts, I wonder if hers was lying there. Another squeak. I whip around, not sure where it's coming from. I hold my breath. Wait, stay completely still. There's nothing but quiet. When I turned back around the bed, When I turned back towards the bed, I noticed that there's a book on the nightstand, one I've never read, that never belonged to me when I lived in this house. I pick it up and realize it's torn along the spine, the binding fragile. There's no back cover, nothing past page 137. Part of it is missing. I open it, and another page comes loose, fluttering to the floor. It's falling apart in my hands. I'm about to look around for the rest of the book when I see it, a flash of writing in blue pen. There's a handwritten note on the title page. For my Cleo, my troublemaker, my fireball, may you always be brave. Don't ever let anyone extinguish your light. I hope this helps you understand. Love forever, Mom. I traced my fingers over her words. I forgot her perfect handwriting, the beautiful slopes of it. I continue to flip through the book, gently, careful not to damage what's left. There are notes on almost every page. She annotated this copy, annotated it for me. When? This thing is beat to hell. Did she leave it here for me to find? Did she know she was about to die? Squeak. There's movement, a flash of fur. I'm screaming before my mind catches up, before my brain comprehends there's a mouse scurrying across the top of my sneakers. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I kick my feet and run, down the hill, up the stairs, to the landing, wishing I hadn't shut the door only a few minutes ago, because now I'm fumbling to get it open, to dash through it and escape the mouse house. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the ceiling fan in the living room spinning fast, like it's caught in a hurricane. I turn toward it, and it stops, suddenly, all on its own, unless it wasn't spinning at all and I imagined it, unless I didn't see what I thought I saw. I stand, staring, arrested by confusion. A blood-freezing cold grabs me by the back of my neck. Icy fingers press hard into my skin with the promise of a bruise. I shake, throw my hands up, spin around. There's no one, nothing, but it doesn't matter, because I still feel that terrible chill on my neck and in my bones. Feel little mice crawling all over me, their claws scoring my skin. What I don't feel is alone. I don't feel like I'm alone in the house. I bolt through the door and pull it shut behind me, lock it with trembling hands. By the time I get to the car, I manage to take a few deep breaths, steady myself enough to drive. As I go to buckle my seatbelt, prepare to speed to Starbucks, then go home and take an infinite hot shower. I find my mother's book in my hand. I don't remember it being there a second ago. I don't remember carrying it out of the house. But here it is now, and I can't seem to put it down. It sticks to me like it's covered with glue, like it's an extension of my hand, my body, like it belongs. Again, this is supposed to feel like spooky. It's a horror novel, again. However, I have been so thoroughly unimpressed with this book by this point that this just felt like nothing. I felt nothing reading that. No adrenaline rush, no like, oh, is something gonna happen? Are we gonna get a first appearance of the demon? Which, no, we don't get the first appearance of the demon, like, truly, until halfway through the book. Actually, over halfway through the book. I digress. The rest of that chapter, though, is a excerpt from her mother's book. And for a good couple of chapters, half of the chapter will be Cleo's point of view, and the other half be an excerpt from the book. Again, these excerpts are the most interesting thing about this book, but at this current time, it's just about how she ended up in the house and that she heard the demon's voice her first night there. Alex did, not Cleo. At some point after her first, extrusion through Mouse House, she does speak to her dad about it and her sisters. Again, sisters aren't happy, but her father is kind of like, I think it would be good for you. And I'm here to let you know that, you have to do this, however. This is on you. You have to make all the calls. You have to do everything. You cannot involve me. You cannot involve Amy. You cannot involve your sisters. This is your project. Followed immediately by saying that he will help her with the finances and figuring out how much she should invest. Also, he is the one who calls the exterminator for the house and gets the traps set up. And also when she goes back in there to clean the traps out at some point later on, her father is the one who does it for her. So how much did he really mean when he said that you had to be the one to do this yourself? This is your project. He really didn't mean that much of it, did he? If he just was like, yeah, you have to do this yourself, and then proceeds to help her with it, like he said he wouldn't do. After this conversation, however, she finds herself in her old childhood room reading her mother's book, like she said she wouldn't do. And she learns, well, we as an audience also learn a couple of things, like kind of almost immediately. First of all, their dad had an affair with Amy, who was their dance teacher, and that he denies it. This is a note written in the margins by their mother. Alexandra does think that while he was a cheater and wasn't good to her, she still believes that their father was still a good father to them. We also see just how strange and weird that her first night in the house is. There was like a jar of peanut butter that like got opened and smeared everywhere around the house, essentially, and the mother, Alex, thought that it was one of the girls doing it, and the girls were like, no, we were upstairs playing in our room. How would we be downstairs spreading peanut butter everywhere if we were upstairs? And Alex kind of like freaks out and starts yelling at them. And there's actually a note in the margins that says that she knows that in reality she was much more crueler than that. And Cleo recounts her memory of the event that concluded with one of the girls, I believe Daphne, getting slapped across the face for like back talk and saying that it wasn't them. Why would it be them if they were upstairs? So this book does this thing where it likes to add unnecessary information that like never gets brought up again, or it doesn't really contribute much to the plot. It's just there for brownie points or something. I don't know. And one of these things that like gets brought up very briefly, and it does get brought up again later, but again very briefly, is that Cleo's not exactly straight. There's no real like label there. But the first time it's mentioned in passing, it's just this random comment about how she never locks her door, except for when she was in high school, when she would be making out with her best friend or one of her girlfriends, instead of doing homework. So like she would lock the door during that. It was like out of the blue, like, yeah, I don't lock my door. Except for this one time in high school. And the second time that it is mentioned that she is not straight, it happens like exactly 10 pages later, which is kind of funny. And it happens with one of her current friends who is a girl. They like get super drunk together at a bar and they kiss. And I think Cleo tries to like take her home, and the girl is like, I can't, my boyfriend. And Cleo kind of just talks about how she doesn't really care. And normally she wouldn't, and even now, like, she still doesn't, but she's starting to understand why maybe she should. But the whole Cleo not being straight thing, again, it adds nothing to the story. Maybe at some point it was supposed to be like more like intertwined with like some of the family tensions, because it is mentioned that their father is only accepting of Daphne, that he would not be accepting of her being gay. But it's also mentioned that he's not actually accepting of Daphne being gay, and that he hates that she is gay. So it's like it was added to create some more family tension and more stakes. But it's still just, when it comes to Cleo, it still kind of caters to a stereotype that I don't like. I hate the whole, oh, bisexual women are cheaters. Like, no, anyone can be a cheater, regardless of their race or sexuality. Like, just stop. And, like, to a point, it also almost feels more like a fetish, because the only two mentions of Cleo being gay are through her making out with women. I did look into it, and from my understanding, Rachel Harrison, the author of the novel, is bisexual. which makes things just a little bit better. And like, I don't know. It was still very woe to me, even with having this information of her being bisexual, because it just straight up doesn't add anything to the story. Like, it contributes nothing. You could completely remove this fact and nothing would change. It just felt unnecessary, and it felt like just an unfinished part of the novel. A good chunk of this book is a lot of like montaging of Cleo kind of renovating the house. She never really gets that far. Like, she did some paint priming, and like looked up swatches, and that was about it. Like, the door got replaced with a smart lock. But she does, when she does like try to work on it, she does spend the night there. And on the first night that she spends there, a child breaks into her house. A child breaks into her house, and it's then we meet Austin, who is her love interest. He is the uncle of said child, and he dared him to break in, not realizing that someone was there. He thought that the house was unoccupied and was like, haha, I dare you to go into that haunted house, little boy. And so the following day, Austin does come back with apology beer, and him and Cleo like very briefly talk, and this brief talk turns into the world's shortest smut scene. We stumble inside. He lifts my dress over my head, kicks off his Vans while I unbutton his jeans. They slide down to his ankles and he trips. We fall back onto the couch. He's an excellent kisser and knows exactly how to use his hands. What luck to have him show up on my doorstep. Can I touch you? He asks me. He waits until I say yes, until I whisper the word into his ear. Then he slips his fingers between my thighs. He doesn't talk to me, which I appreciate. The next person to ask me, yeah, you like that, is getting a firm no. He makes me come with just his hands, and I could leave it at that, but I like him enough to go down on him. He weaves his fingers through my hair. He doesn't pull. He's not rough with me, but he's not so gentle to turn me off. He warns me before he finishes. All in all, a great hookup. No notes. And there's another one on page 127. I love old people. They have the best stories, give great advice. No filter, no ego, I say. Very old people and very young people. They're the most fun. They're always asking me to get them drugs, he says. Drugs and chocolate and butter. You're a mule. I don't do it, he says. I'd lose my job. Not ever, not once, I ask, getting up and taking his hand, leading him over to the couch. Plead the fifth, he says, grabbing me by the waist. He kisses me. We undress slowly until we're both naked except for my tube socks, which I leave on intentionally. I straddle him on the couch. Do you want to? He asks me. His hands in my hair, his lips on my neck. Do you have a condom? He tells me he does. I bite his shoulder. Presumptuous. What can I say? I'm an optimist. I put the condom on him with my mouth. A trick I learned from one of my dancer friends who went on to be a Wall Street CEO's sugar baby. Then I slide on top. Fuck, he says, his breath hitching, fingers pressing into my hips. It lasts longer than I expected to. It's the best sex I've had in a long time. Might make it into the Hall of Fame. When it's over, we're both spent. We pass out on the couch. And here's the thing. At any point with both of these scenes, she could have done a fade to black. Like, she didn't have to go through with writing a smut scene if she didn't want to. While I don't pick up a book personally based off of the spice content in it, it's one of those things where it's like, if it happens, it happens. At least make it good. I don't know. Like, you're not forced to add smut to your book if you don't want to. Like, no one is forcing you to write this. At any moment, you could have alluded to them having a sexual, like, relationship with each other without writing, like, 3 sentences. And in the words of how every one of my friends who I have made read these passages say, a sex trailer. Not even a sex scene, a sex trailer. Like, again, there's the tasteful, like, fade to black to allude to their relationships and them sleeping together. Or you could have wrote a full scene. Instead, you summarized it. And you're like, we did this, and then we did this, and then we did that. Like, wow, it was great. It was great. Like, a summary of a spice scene is so much worse than reading a full-on spice scene. And I don't even like reading smut. Like, it's not something I particularly enjoy. But, like, this was worse than reading a full-on smut scene. Also, at this point, Cleo and Austin, like, don't know anything about each other other than their names. They hadn't even exchanged, like, phone numbers or socials. Nothing. I mean, Austin does leave a note with his phone number on it after their second hookup, but, like, prior to all of that, they just really dove into each other quite literally with knowing nothing. Knowing nothing. It's a miracle that, like, they knew each other's names, I guess. At some point, she does go back to the garage. And I do mention this earlier on about how she goes into the garage and there's a bunch of mice in the glue traps. Except they're pieces of mice. It's not one mouse or several mice in full pieces. It's like, oh, a mouse head there, a couple mice legs there, a tail there. But again, it's one of those scenes where it feels like it's supposed to be suspenseful, but it just feels like a whole lot of nothing. This whole book really feels like a whole lot of nothing. This summary feels like a whole lot of nothing. Like, what even is all of this in the grand scheme? It's nothing. I've never, like, felt this, like, passionately disappointed with a book in a hot minute. Like, there's the Lissy Harrison Monster High books, which, again, that is a subject for another video. Like, I hate those. I hate those books. But, like, outside of that book series there, those 4 books, I have never really felt this, like, just angry and frustrated with a book. I'm referring to a book called Where Shadows Bloom. I don't know if I will touch on it, but it also made me extremely irritated. Like, there's so many scenes that are, like, they're supposed to be suspenseful, but they're just words. They're just words. And they're constricted into a sentence. And I'm sure it's supposed to mean something. But it's not. Like, let me read the whole lot of nothing. Caffeine buzzed and highly motivated. I decided to clean up around the house first before I clean up myself. Put on yesterday's clothes, I dust, pick more dead flies off the window sills, vacuum. Finally, I braved the garage. As soon as I open the door, I smell death. It's nauseating. I stand there, torn between abandoning ship, running to call Dad, or confronting the poor mice in their glue traps. Which, now that I think about it, I only consented to in a moment of weakness. I didn't want the mice in the house, but I never wanted them dead either. I wanted them to move out into a tree stump, where they could dress up in aprons and serve each other tea in cute mouse-sized cups. Racked with guilt about my role in their untimely end, I step deeper into the garage, letting the door shut behind me. I hold my nose, my breath. I flick on the light, a horrible fluorescent that makes it look even more like a crime scene. I anticipate having to search for the traps, thinking they must have been strategically placed in dark corners, behind snow shovel, whatever. They have been strategically placed. They're right in front of me, and a line snaking across the middle of the garage floor, and they're covered in mouse parts. Not whole mice, just parts. A tail, a claw, a head, a half. There's no other half, no rest of the body. Can a mouse survive in pieces? Are these parts of the same mouse, or different mice that all suffer the same brutal demise? It's disgusting, baffling, a massacre. Dead mice in front of me, a dead mouse on the page of a book, and a scene that I dismissed as a medieval-styled embellishment. But now, I step forward on tiptoes, my hands over my mouth and nose to protect me from the death smell. And, like, again, this is meant to be suspenseful. This is meant to be weird. And, like, it is weird walking into a garage and finding all these tiny little mouse parts and no whole mouse anywhere, and there be no sign of, like, an animal having done that. But Oh, thank you, Opal, for your input. But it's just, it feels like a whole lot of nothing. Again, like, I didn't want the mice to die. I just wanted them out of my house. I wanted them to live in a tree stump so that they could wear aprons and, have tea parties. Okay, that's cool. That's cool, Cleo. I'm so glad that you have realistic thoughts. And then when we finally get our first scene of supposed paranormal activity that has, again, supposedly been happening since forever, it's not suspenseful. There's been so many fake outs when it comes to the paranormal and the horror aspects of this book that, like, you're better off just assuming it's another fake out, because 9 times out of 10 is just another fake out. This whole book is one fake out after another. All of the horror scenes just, maybe it's because it's in writing, it's on paper and not a movie. Maybe these scenes would do better if it was like a movie or a TV show. But like on paper, it's not good. This is not good writing, in my opinion.
And I will be reading another excerpt of said bad writing since I forgot to introduce that in my recording.
I stand up, step down the landing, attempting to figure out if it's coming from upstairs or downstairs. But now it's gone. Quiet. I'm on the verge of wondering if I imagined it when there's a thud. Something fell. Something substantial. Upstairs. The ladder? I run up to find the ladder standing tall in the corner. I look around, but nothing seems out of place. I push through the saloon doors into the kitchen. The jar of peanut butter is on the floor. It landed upside down. I pick it up and put it back on the counter. The countertops are horrible white laminate, which have yellowed over the years. The kitchen is in a desperate need of a deep clean, but I can't motivate myself since I'm seriously considering gutting it all anyway. I stare at the ugly countertops, at the jar of the peanut butter. How did it fall? Did I leave it right on the edge? I must have. At least it didn't splatter everywhere, like it did in that scene of Mom's book. Who did this? Is this supposed to be funny? It was probably the thing that lives in my closet, I hear myself say, reaching for the jar and tucking it away into a cabinet. I roll my eyes at the idea of a demonic entity with a love of nut butter. The more I think about the demon, or whatever, the more I entertain the idea of its existence, the more real it will become. If I allow myself to attribute every noise, every odd occurrence, every chill in the house to a boogeyman, I will have a boogeyman. 2 years ago, Veronica went on a meditation retreat and came back saying she had this epiphany that the universe sends her butterflies as signs that she is on the right path. Now she sees butterflies everywhere, all the time. She'll be getting day drunk at a bottomless brunch, see a butterfly and think, wow, the universe is so happy I'm on my 4th Bloody Mary. Good for me. It's a sweet belief, albeit a little self-aggrandizing, but who am I to judge? It just makes me wonder about belief and delusion. What's the difference there, really? Maybe delusion is an eagerness to believe, a desperation for it. Did Mom ever think about any of this? Did she ever think to herself these questions? Not Mom in the book, in her memory, or mine. Mom in life, back then, in real time. I'll never know. I yawn and step out into the hallway. The dragging noise is back. It transforms quickly into a scrapping, an ugly racket. Kneels on a chalkboard, coming from below me? Beneath my feet? It's like someone's downstairs pulling a rake across the ceiling. This isn't a matter of belief or delusion. It's happening. It's happening. The temperature drops. My heart plummets into a pit in my stomach. My knees buckle. I'm dizzy and nauseated, and I don't know how to be scared like this. My body doesn't know what to do with this fear. My mind either. I have no fight or flight reflex. I'm a creature who has existed in comfort, practicality, all my life, and then the supreme discomfort of listening to the scraping is maddening. My hair is in my fist, my back against the wall. Are the walls bending? Is the floor tilting? I can't get my footing. The scraping stops and the world holds still, and it's brief, but it's there. Laughing. A split second of it as the lights flicker, then go out. In the dark, it's quiet again. I reach out as my eyes adjust, stumbling forward, totally disoriented. What I feel is skin, hot skin at my fingertips. The light fizzes back on, and there's nothing in front of me. I stay where I am, hoping in vain to steady myself. After a minute, I make my way over to the couch on Bambi legs. I sit and stare straight ahead. I listen. The silence somehow more menacing than the strange noises, than the dragging, than the scraping, the laughing. The silence isn't calm. It's waiting. There's something coiling inside it. I know. I can feel it. I believe it. If I were to close my eyes, I would see it. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's war. I'm afraid to blink. I keep my eyes wide. I move them everywhere. My sketch pad is open on the coffee table to the page with the sketch I don't remember making, the word I don't remember writing. Hello. And basically, like, the more that she stays in this house, the more she believes that the demon is real, the more that she starts developing traits that are similar to her mother, which is usually, like, using alcohol and drinking. And, like, at some point, she does convince Austin to, like, stay with her at the house, or, like, she stay with him at his house. And she learns that his mother was, like, the last person to have seen her mother alive before she passed away. But, like, again, I found this book so unremarkable that as I was, like, annotating, as I was making notes for it, there's this large gap between chapters, between passages, because I found nothing interesting to note. Like, it's just more of her kind of semi-spiraling until the Memorial Day. Until Memorial Day, and she goes over to her father's, and she does some snooping around, and she finds the other half of the annotated copy of the book. And Cleo is not intelligent. We have established this. She is not smart. She does not think. She only does. And so when she finds this the rest of the annotated copy, the first thing she does is to call out her father. So you know what her father does? Her father takes it outside and throws it into the fireplace. Or not fireplace, but they had a fire going on Memorial Day. I've personally have never done something like that for Memorial Day. So, like, that was kind of, like, strange to me. Do people have fires for Memorial Day? I know people, like, cook out and grill. But fires? Fire pits? Whatever. Anyway, she throws the book into the fire. And everyone is, like, mad at Cleo, saying that she's the one who crossed the boundary for wanting to read the book and whatnot. And it's like, if I was Cleo, I would not have told my father that I found that he was hiding the other part of the novel he didn't want me to read. I would have just taken it, read it, and then called him out at a different time. Because, like, yeah, it was very obvious that his response was going to be to destroy it. Like, it takes around 180 pages into the book to get into any of the real, like, paranormal stuff and, like, the supposed demon in the house. And, like, at that point, it's like, this is over halfway of the book. The book is 322 pages long. Like, we're over halfway. And so it feels so, like, not great. It's not great. Like, and there's not even a real focus on the paranormal, because really the rest of this book is just a montage of Cleo getting drunk and posting on social media while drunk, ruining her social image, alluding to her and Austin sleeping together, which their whole relationship was also kind of pointless and added nothing to the novel. They, like, hardly spent any time, like, as a couple or made things, like, official. They just kind of, like, slept together and occasionally got high and went out to eat. Like, there was nothing substantial about the romance in this book either. So you could have omitted that and the book still read the same. She gets drunk, posts on social media. She starts believing in the demon more, like, paranormal stuff starts happening. And paranormal in quotes, because it's mostly Cleo just getting drunk and posting on social media. And, like, There's also another point where while she's still seeing Austin, because they never clarified what they were, and she also mentions that, like, Austin's, like, a really nice guy, and it seems like Austin, like, wants a committed, like, relationship, or sees this as, like, sees some sort of, like, commitment between the two of them, and Cleo goes and sleeps with Ethan, mentioned back at the beginning of the book. She never tells Austin this, because why would it matter? Like, it's just a lot of Cleo being a mess, and I get it. She's meant to be a mess. The family's meant to be dysfunctional, and, like, the whole message of this book is about a dysfunctional family. Is there a message to this book? Like, I feel like I'm spiraling, like, trying to talk about this. Like, I have cohesive notes, like, in front of me, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, how much of this is actually important to talk about? Because it's just bad. This book is just bad. Okay, on to the dysfunctional family thing. That family dysfunction is incredibly obvious with conversations like this. Why didn't you tell me? The clouds move so fast. About what? The book. You could have told me, and you didn't. You lied to me. I didn't lie. I admitted. You lied. Dad burned my book. Why isn't that the topic of this conversation? Why is it my fault? He shouldn't have done that, but you can't blame him for being upset. I can, actually. You crossed the boundary. You broke a promise. You lied, she says, to all of us. What do I owe you? I ask, looking out at the city. I'm more exasperated than angry, disappointed that she's not more understanding. I expected empathy from her, and it stings that I'm not getting any. I made that promise when I was a kid, when my classmates still believed in Santa Claus. Okay, still, she says, you should have come to us when you found the book, when you started to read it. I don't need your approval for everything that I do. She clicks her tongue. Yeah, you've made that clear, but then you need to live with the consequences. Take responsibility for your actions. You sound like Leda. You're too hard on her, on both of us, she says, and on Dad. What if I'm not hard enough? I ask. The weed isn't calming me down. It's just making me more anxious. I turn my gaze down to the street below. What's that thing when you feel this urge to jump off a building? Isn't there a name for that impulse? I don't want to die. I just want to know what it feels like to fall. What if Dad isn't who we think he is? What if it's everything Mom said he was? He cheated on her with Amy and lied about it. You don't know that. Wow, whatever, I say. She takes a deep breath. You need to apologize. Apologize to whom? Captain Beatty? Which, the apologize to whom feels so out of place in this, because her writing feels very elementary to me, and so a lot of people also don't use the word whom in their writing. This is grammatically, like, correct. Like, the way that she used whom is correct. Most people do not use it, though, and the way that her writing style does not indicate that she would. At least Cleo. And so Cleo just randomly being like, to whom? Felt so out of place to me. Like, I use whom in my everyday language. I just think it's really, like, fun to say whom and whomst. Like, I don't know. It's just fun for me. But a lot of people are always like, why do you speak that way? Why do you use that word? Like, it's just not a commonly used word these days. That's fine. It's just this writing style, it doesn't work with it. I know I'm being nitpicky, but, like, yes, and Leda and Amy, everyone's really upset. I'm upset, I say, my voice breaking. I'm really, really fucking upset. I close my eyes, and where there should be darkness, I see the scrapes on the wall, the frowning face. Please, Cleo, Daphne says, listen to me. Alexandra being gone, it makes things confusing emotionally. But she hurt us. Don't you remember how she would scream at us, chase us around the house? She kept us locked out of the deck during a fucking exorcism. She showed up belligerent,
drunk out of her mind to our dance recital, embarrassed the hell out of us before crashing her car in the parking lot. I know we never talk about it, but I think about it. I think about how she couldn't see us if she didn't get sober, if she didn't stop ranting about demons. But she refused to do that. We weren't worth it to her, Clee. She wasn't well. She was abusive. What she did to us, it was abuse. Are those your words? I asked, shaking my head, backing away from the ledge. Or Dad's? Stop. You don't get to question my memories, my experience. It's not fair. It's not all about you, Cleo.
Like, yes, it's clear they're dysfunctional. But that doesn't change that I'm bored. Like, nowhere during that conversation was I enjoying, like, the tension. I love listening to, like, characters argue. I love it. I love tension. I also love, like, mean characters when they're enjoyable. None of these characters are enjoyable. I'm rooting for no one in this book, except maybe Austin, to find a better girlfriend. So, like, I hate to admit it, but I am on the side of Cleo in that, like, conversation, because why does she have to apologize when everyone is so against her wanting to figure out her own memories? Like, Daphne literally says, you don't get to question my experiences or my memories. However, Daphne and Leta both do that to Cleo throughout this entire book, and also tell her what she can and cannot feel towards their mother and what her memories are, even if Cleo is remembering them differently. She's not allowed to remember them differently. Only Leta's and Daphne's, like, memory of her is valid. And it's like, I don't think Cleo is making it about her when it comes to her kind of being like, well, I want to go to her funeral. Well, I want to read her book. Like, why does she have to ask for permission to read her book? She is 25. Daphne is like 27, 28, and Leta is probably pushing 30s or around the same age. It's never really clarified what age Leta and Daphne are, but they're closer in age, but they're not all too horribly older than one another. And so it's like, why are you allowed to choose her feelings and what she does? Again, y'all are grown. Why does she need to ask for permission to read a book that their mother wrote? It doesn't make sense. And also to apologize. Like, I get it. She inadvertently caused a scene. Not inadvertently. I think she knew what she was doing, probably. Because the first thing she did when she found that book was to confront their father at Memorial Day. But, like, why does she need to apologize for the fact that she is upset that she had her annotated book get thrown into a fire? Why does she have to apologize for reading this book? Irregardless, I was still just born through this conflict. And, like, there's a point in the novel where she temporarily kind of gives up on renovating the house, and she goes back to her apartment, and it catches on fire. And the family who was up until this point giving her the silent treatment ended their silent treatment to kind of, like, help her out. The house, her apartment just, like, catching on fire was just, like, such a random thing to happen, but it caught on fire. Her family stops the silent treatment, and they kind of, like, help her out. Like, her father gets her a hotel to stay in until she finds a new apartment. Her sisters, finally, reach out to speak to her. Helen gives her money, like, that type of thing. There was, like, one funny line, though. There was one funny line during the scene, where she's like,
So I pack up my hotel room, drop some things off in my storage unit, and take an Uber all the way to New Jersey. I put it on Dad's account. I hope he sees where it went. Because she's going back to the demon house. And I think it's really funny that she's like, you know what? If Dad wants to pay for everything, I guess I'm gonna let him pay for my trip back to the demon house that he doesn't want me at. Like, this is the one time that I find validity in Cleo's dad doing everything for her, because we do get this one funny scene. It's very sad that, like, out of this whole 322 page book, this is what I find funny, because again, I haven't really found much of it genuinely funny. And when she gets back to the demon house, she finds that her second copy of the book, because she couldn't originally find the second half of the book before it got burned, she had bought another copy so that she could finish the book, and then she found the second half, and then the second half got burned, so it's probably a good thing that she got the second copy. It has arrived. It's on her front porch, and this time, instead of the book being annotated by their mother, it's annotated by the demon of the house. And the annotations are just smiley faces, sad faces, and me wear skin house. Or something along the lines of that. I'll have to, like, add pictures of, like, the margins. But she finishes the book, and we get to see the excerpts that talk about how she met, like, how their mother met Roy, and the exorcism that they tried to perform on the house, and it didn't go well. There was, like, this embellished scene where she said that one of the people who was there for the exorcism was bleeding out of his ears. There was another girl who was, like, bashing her head violently into, like, a table type thing. I'm not going to read the excerpts, but I will say that, like, the excerpts that we get from the book within the book are genuinely the most interesting part. I would have rather a novel that was that instead of Plain Ice. I think I would have enjoyed it more. The writing style is honestly different as well. It's not, like, extremely different. Like, it's definitely still Rachel Harrison writing, obviously. But it's less juvenile, it feels. I was gonna read, like, so many excerpts, but I just think that I would be going off on a broken record, or just how much I think that this is more interesting than everything else about this book. Like, oh my god, like, I could go on, but the problem with me going on is that we would be here forever, so I'm not. We start wrapping things up in this book, and we're, like, hitting the highest peak of the climax, and things are still just falling short. We see that she ruins things with Austin by saying that only douchebags wear gold chains, and he kind of responds with, well, it was my father's, who his father had passed away, that's mentioned. But again, this relationship was so empty, and there was, like, so little to be desired when it came to their relationship written in the book, that again, you could remove this entire relationship in the book, and the book still read the same. Like, it was just an unnecessary detail that was added. Like, nothing really comes out of it. Cleo gets drunk and post more pictures to social media crying while drunk. She does that a lot. At one point, she, like, live streams her trying to contact the demon. There's another point where she tries to burn herself. She does actually burn herself with a lighter, like she did when she was a child, because the demon told her to. And that's when she, like, kind of gives up on the house officially. Kind of officially. She then goes back to her father's place, where she finds out that he wants to commit her to a mental hospital or stress center. and she doesn't like that. However, he does rope everyone into family therapy, which goes about as well as you expect it. It's a lot of the sisters being like, Cleo's a manipulator and everything's about her, and she's just like mom because she believes that the house may be haunted. And wah, 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 wah. Like, it's just so, it's mind-numbing. This book was a mind-numbing read. Also, like, this whole blow-up where the dad admits that he did cheat on their mother with Amy, who was the young dance teacher that his children went to for dance. Surprise! Like, we knew. All of this happens, and it's still just so boring. The ending of all of this is Cleo live streaming drunk, breaking her nose in the demon house, and her sisters coming to check in on her because, again, she's live streaming, and they're like, oh my god, we have to go get her. She's drunk live streaming. She's ruining her reputation even more than she already has. And like, when they're checking in on her, some like freak demon stuff happens, and the sisters start to like believe it a bit more, a little bit. Daphne starts more so than Leta, though. Leta later admits to having read the book already, which somehow like gets the girls into a scuffle with each other where Cleo gets knocked out and Leta and Daphne were like fighting each other, and Cleo wakes up to Daphne reading aloud the book, and Leta is like, stop, and Daphne is like, since I'm the only one who hasn't read the book, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna force you to listen to it because you are just now admitting it, that you've been reading it. And then Leta has this weird like breakdown about how everyone's jealous of her because she has a happy, healthy, loving relationship and perfect life, and they're both messes who use drugs to self-medicate and alcohol, and how she's Little Miss Perfect, and that she knew that the demon was there all along, that she knew as a child, but she would just ignore it and the demon would go away. But secretly, she wanted the demon's attention on her instead of Cleo because she knew that, like, the demon had its attention on Cleo because she was receptive to the demon. And how sometimes she still hoped that the demon would come back just so that she could get the same attention from it that she might have had as a child had she had not ignored it, so that the demon would then go on to attach itself to Cleo. It's a whole thing, and it just felt so strange. Like, wow, okay, plot twist, I guess, but not a very good one. Really, not a good one. And like her whole like breakdown that she has, it's just very reminiscent of like an 8-year-old on Wattpad writing their first fic. But those are more enjoyable because there's something funny in the way that those are bad versus this. Oh, and also like the like official end before the prologue, the epilogue, because I forgot to mention this. Cleo does contact Roy to like perform an exorcism on the house, so he's in the house, and Leta and Daphne Leta specifically thinks that Roy is playing like party tricks on them to make them believe that the demon is real. Daphne, however, is like, no, the demon's real. And Cleo's also like, no, the demon's real. I mean, Leta believes that the demon is real at this point. She's just trying to be like, it's not real. It's just Roy. It's just Roy. It's just the weird demonologist boyfriend of our dead mother, like type things. And They eventually find him in the attic with his eyes scratched out, and that's where the demon like resides. And so Cleo like defeating the demon was her taking off the snake pendant that she got at the very beginning of the book and leaving it as a gift and telling it to leave her alone. And that was that. And then they like drag Roy outside, they call an ambulance, and suddenly Austen is there, and magically things between her and Austen are fine and dandy. And that whole thing never happened. Thing with Austen, like, it's just magically fixed. The argument that they had, but that whole relationship was just so glossed over that it was like, I know you're trying to give them a happy ending, but like, can you be happy? The epilogue also left much to be desired, because it's just this long, meant to be like profound but also preachy, just word vomit of living with scars, essentially. And it's just so, it's so, let me read it. I'm gonna read the ending of this book, because like I can't put it to words. I have no words to describe whatever this is. 3 of us go out to the balcony and pass around Daphne's weed pen. Sorry, long day, she says. This is really cool, Clee. Congrats. The buyers fell through, didn't they? I ask her. She took over all things Edgewood after what happened that night with Roy. He's retired now, I hear. Probably for the best. Daffy stays quiet, which I take as confirmation. That house will never sell, I say. It'll sell, Austen says. Just could take a while. I'm grateful for his optimism, and I trust that he actually does believe about the demon. I'm just not sure he understands. How could he? How could anyone? Our demons are ours, and ours alone. My mother's demons were hers. Even if she were still here, I couldn't ever really understand what it was like for her, why she did the things that she did. I tried in the wake of her death. A fool's endeavor, but I have no regrets, because now I know that she wasn't crazy. I'm not sure anyone is. I think it's just easier to call someone crazy than it is to admit that they could be right. It's easier to call someone crazy than confront the nuance of their circumstance, than to accept the callous cruelty that exists in the world we live in, the evil out there that revels in our suffering. They say ignorance is bliss, and maybe, but still, fucking ignorance. So no regrets. Not even on the restless nights when I'm trying to fall asleep and I hear it, that laughter. Sometimes it slithers through my dreams. Nothing fell through, Cleo. It's a good offer. Everything seems solid, Daphne says. The sale is moving forward. Oh, I say. Wow. I haven't been back to the house since that night. Haven't offered any more of myself, my time, my attention, my energy, my life to the demon. I had no intention of ever stepping foot in 6 Edgewood Drive again. I was aware that my refusal to engage might come back to haunt me someday. I realize now that there was some small, repressed, devious, boredom-prone, chaos-addicted, diabolical part of me that was hoping it would. I down my champagne. Hey, that's great, Austen says. Way off your shoulders. Dude, you have no idea, Daphne says. It's a couple, you said? I ask her. She takes a deep breath. Cleo, we talked about this. Yeah, I know. Not my circus. Not my monkeys, she finishes. It's time to let the place go. It's gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. The house is... It's over. It's behind us. Sure, I say. Austen reaches for my free hand, and with the other I bring the flute to my lips, tipping it back. There's no more champagne. My glass is empty. Tragic. Daffy clicks her tongue. All right, I'm going in. I should get back to Daisy. Godspeed, I say, saluting her. It's cold out, Austen says. You want to go in? You want my jacket? I'm good, I say. You can go in. I'm going to take a minute out here to myself. All right, he says. See you inside? Yeah, I'll find you. You sure you're okay? I cross my heart. All of this nothing for such a nothing ending. Take a shot every time that I've said nothing this entire video. Don't actually do that. Don't actually do that. That's a bad idea. Like, This book was like so draining to read. Like, I was so happy when I finished it. I was so happy when I finished it. I was like, yes, I can finally read another book, an actually good book. So, final thoughts. I think we know where this is going if you have stuck long enough. I did not enjoy this book. I'm like genuinely so disappointed in how much I did not enjoy this book. The premise of the book sounds very interesting. The plot, like the idea of the plot is very interesting. This dysfunctional family with, you know, these literal demons but also metaphorical demons of family secrets, and just this one girl who's trying to like unravel it all. That's such an interesting concept, and I do not think that it was executed very well during this writing process. Maybe it would have been better if it was a movie, like a full-fledged like film and not a novel, but it's a novel. We got it as a novel. But again, I don't think that it was executed very well. I mean, first of all, I understand the theme, and that the demon being both a literal possession of the house while also being a metaphor for the lies and secrets that have been buried by the family head, the father. But like, it's done so messy, and like, yes, like, family dynamics like this are going to be messy. Storylines like this are going to be messy, but this isn't messy in like how people are messy, but messy as in the writing and the storytelling and the pacing itself is all messy. There's so many just things that are unnecessary to the plot and so many half-baked ideas. I think the demon possessing house and the dysfunctional family built on secrets and lies told by their father, these ideas conflicted. Now, they can go hand in hand in a novel and be really good storytelling devices. However, both of these ideas felt half-baked with how short the novel is. It's 322 pages. That's objectively a very short book. So, like, yeah, there was going to be things that weren't necessarily going to make it into final print. That's okay. Like, it happens. But I felt like the book could not marry the ideas together in a cohesive way. It just felt like two main plots happening with a bunch of little things happening in between that aren't necessary. The whole relationship between her and Austin provides nothing to Cleo's character growth, to her development, the plot, nothing. The apartment like catching on fire felt like so unnecessary and unneeded. The comments of her not necessarily being straight, again, it went nowhere. What was the point of finding this out if it's not contributing anything to the story? The preachy, profound ending as well also was just, it was strange. Like, why did we give them this happy ending where she forgave her father but never truly forgot what happened? Which, that's fine. There are people who would forgive and not forget in these types of situations. However, I feel like the things that he did were unforgivable. Not just unforgettable, unforgivable. Like, he did everything in his power to completely cut off his ex-wife from seeing her children and making sure that the kids hated her and like completely cast her out of their lives.
I completely just like spaced talking about these points of why I think that some of the things that he did was not like forgivable when it came to alienating the mother, um, on top of like the whole cheating thing, he gaslit her the entire time to make it like to make her seem like she was crazier than maybe she already was. He demonized her mental health, um, and her mental illness, which pushed her further into, alcoholism, as some people typically do when they are mentally ill, unfortunately. And he would make sure that there's like no pictures of her and the kids from when they were together. Anytime like the girls brought her up, it was like, no, we don't speak about her. And he continues up with this even after she died, with like the whole funeral and stuff. He's just weird. He's just so weird.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, this book reads as it's supposed to be a semi-serious, like, think piece, but comes off as more, OMG, I'm so quirky and you can't take me anywhere, or want to be edgy, but, like, in that hello, fellow children meme way, with, I think, Steve Buscemi. Or is it Joe Buscemi? No, that's the meme here somewhere, maybe. Overall, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I was very excited for this book. The plot sounded amazing in theory, but in practice, again, I don't think it was good. It was such a letdown. There was several times where I wanted to DNF this book, but I am too stubborn to do that. So here we are with another 2-hour long video. I am so sorry. I will try to make a short form content video at some point. Maybe the next one. Maybe the next one won't be 2 hours long. And I wonder why it takes me so long to edit these. If I could give this 0 stars out of 5, I would. However, I don't think that I can or I'm allowed to. So it's a 1. In my original notes, though, I did rate it as a 2.5. But as I revised those notes and worked on the script, and as I'm talking about it now, I reflected on how I spoke about it to my peers, to my girlfriend, to my mom. I literally sat down with my mom and showed her the 2-sentence long smut scene and was like, what is this? And my mom also was kind of like, what? My poor coworkers also had to deal with me ranting about this book because I read a lot of this at work. But I reflected on my thoughts and feelings that I had while reading the book and how I spoke about the book to people in my life. And yeah, I don't think it is even a 2.5. I was so frustrated, so bored, so, angry reading this book. I hated it. I truly hated it. I'm so glad that I only paid $5 for this in a subscription box versus full price. I think that if I paid for this full price, I would have cried a little bit because the price for this is $30 USA. Again, I got this book of the month. And book of the month, the first box that you get is $5. And you also get a hat. It's the hat that I was wearing. Or there's a couple different hats. But the hat that I was wearing in the beginning before I was like, I'm done with the hat. I can't. Is also from the first $5 box, starting fee. And then from there, it's $17.99 per month. And you get a hardcover book each month for that price. So even if I paid the $17.99 versus the $30, the $30.99 for it, I still feel better about that than paying the full
$30 for this, I think that would have really broke my spirit. I did pick out my October books, though, for Book of the Month. So I'm excited to read those. I got Red City and Hazelthorn. So I'm really excited to read those. And I sincerely hope they're not as much of a letdown as this book was. Again, I want to say that my negative thoughts and feelings towards this book does not reflect, like, my thoughts and feelings of Book of the Month as a subscription service. I'm obviously continuing the service with my girlfriend because we read a lot. And, you know, $17.99 for a book every month, that's not bad. That's a lot better than how much we spend when we go book shopping. So, you know, there's going to be some hits and then there's going to be some misses. And, you know, that happens. That's okay. Not everyone is going to love every book that gets published and that they read. That's also okay. But that doesn't mean that it's not disappointing when you were really excited for one. But I usually give an author, though, like a 2-book chance before I write them off from, like, ever reading them again. But with how much I disliked Play Nice, I don't know if I want to, I don't know if I want to try another one of her books. Maybe if I do, I'll find, like, a digital copy of it and not, like, the full-fledged hardcover book, because, again, I don't want to spend that much on a book that I might not like. I read reviews of her, and a lot of people, like, have such good reviews of Rachel Harrison and Play Nice and her other books. But I don't know if I want to risk attempting to read another one of her novels. If you have made it to this far, to the official ending, though, thank you for watching and sticking along with this ride. I am so sorry that this was just, like, 2 hours of me ranting and raving about how much I hate a book. But it really does mean a lot to me that you stuck through. Also, if you stuck through, please let me know, what are your thoughts on this book if you have read it yourself? I'm very curious. Do you think that I should attempt another one of her novels? And if so, which one? Let me know. If there's any other, like, books you want me to check out, also let me know. I am an open book when it comes to reading things. You know, I am willing to try new books and all of that. So, if you have made it this far to the official ending of the video, thank you so much for watching and sticking with this 2-hour-long ride of me ranting and raving about how much I dislike a book. It genuinely means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. This is just a hobby I do in my free time. I have a other job, but yeah, this is a hobby where I sit down for 2 hours to speak about books and record off of an iPhone. Talking about books is my passion. Anyways, if you've read Play Nice, let me know what you thought of the book, and also, do you think that I should try out any of her other novels? If so, which ones? I'm also willing to take other book suggestions by other novels. I'm definitely willing to look into most things. But after all of that, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.